Okay, let's review some dividend problems. This is Watkins Enterprises earned net income of $95,000 during the year ended December 31st, 2012. On December 15th, 2012, Watkins Enterprises declared the annual cash dividend on its 2% preferred stock, total par value of $140,000, and a 70-cent per share cash dividend on its common stock with 80,000 shares outstanding. Watkins Enterprises then paid the dividends on the 4th. So the first thing it asks us to do is journalize the entry for declaring the cash dividends on December 15th. So let's go ahead and start doing some calculating here. So we need to first figure out how much we need to take out of our retained earnings. So let's focus first on this preferred stock. Oops, what happened? Okay, so what that 2% tells us is that we're going to take 2% of 140,000, and that's how much we're going to pay out to our preferred stockholders. And it looks like that comes to $2,800. Then also we're going to pay a cash dividend of 70 cents per share on 80,000 shares outstanding. So if we take 70 times 80,000, should get $56,000. So that added together is $58,800. So when we do our journal entry to record that declaration of that dividend on the 15th, we're going to need to debit retained earnings for the $58,800. And we will credit dividends payable or common dividend distributable for $58,800. Then on the 4th, when we actually go and make that payment, we're just going to debit the dividends payable. That has the effect of reducing that liability now. Actually going to eliminate it because we're paying the entire amount. And we credit cash, which is for $58,800. Just to explain a little bit, this dividend payable credit of $58,800 and this dividend payable debit of $58,800 will end up canceling each other out. The credit is the same amount as the debit, so those will zero each other out. And what we're left with is the reduction in retained earnings of $58,800 and the reduction of our cash for the same amount. Alright, here's another example. We're going to have a stock and cash dividend now. So the Karate Shop is authorized to issue 700,000 shares of $1 par common stock. So that's how many they're authorized to issue, not that many is outstanding. The company issued 77,000 shares at $9 per share, and all 77,000 shares are outstanding. When the market price of common stock was $19 per share, the Karate Shop declared and distributed a 15% stock dividend. Later, the Karate Shop, it's hard to say, declared and paid a 30-cent per share cash dividend. So let's look at the declaration and distribution of the cash dividend. I'm sorry, the stock dividend first. Alright, so first thing we have to do is figure out how many new shares of stock are going to be issued. So there's 77,000 shares that are outstanding, and the company is issuing a 15% stock dividend. So if we take 77,000 shares that are currently outstanding times 15%, that will tell us how many more new shares that the company is actually going to be issuing. So that's $11,550. So this is a small stock dividend because it's less than 25%. So we need to debit our retained earnings at the market price. So the market price here is going to be $19 per share. So if we take 11,550 new shares and multiply that times the $19 market price, let's see what we get. All right, that's $219,450. Then if we go ahead and debit retained earnings for the $219,500, oops, don't know why that's in there. Close that. $219,450. And then we're going to credit our common stock at par value. Well, what was our par value up there? And that's going to be $11,550 times, it says $1 par value. So that's $11,550. Okay. So now the difference between the $219,450, which is at market, and the par value of $11,550 equals 207,900. And I get an extra zero in there, I think. So we are going to go ahead and credit paid-in capital in excess of par for that 207,900. So now my debits equal my credits, and we look pretty good. Alright, let's look at the second part of the problem. So it says now they pay the cash dividends. Well, how many shares are now outstanding on January 4th? So we had 77,000 shares that were previously outstanding, and now we just issued another 11,550 shares. So that tells me that we have 88,550 shares now outstanding. We need to multiply that times the dividend amount per share, which was 70 cents. Oops, let me back up a minute. I had gone back to the original example when I started doing part 2, but the information still remains the same. Okay, so it was the 77,000 shares that were previously outstanding plus 11,550. It's 88,550 shares are now outstanding. Multiply that times, this is where I made a mistake, this is a 30-cent per share cash dividend, and if you do the math there, you get 26,565. So we only need to now debit retained earnings for that amount. And we credit our dividends payable, or common dividend distributable, by that amount as well. So that was actually on the, I'm not sure. When we go to pay that, then all we're going to do is debit the liability dividends payable. That's going to get rid of that liability for $26,565, and we credit cash